Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and grab your pitchforks, grab your torches, sign the petition, link down below. We've got to talk about this huge breaking news we got last night about what CG is currently referring to as Relic Delta. This is a change that is coming to the game. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to react to it. I can tell you I'm not part of the chosen group of testers, but I've been in contact with a lot of them. I've watched their content. I hear what's going on, and I want to give you my thoughts here. I can tell you right now, overwhelmingly negative response, not just from the community, but from me as well. I think this is a change that is really not good. And there's a lot of things I'm going to pick out here that I think CG has done poorly. There are some positives I do want to take away. Not necessarily from the Relic Delta, but the way they've gone about it. So, channel members, your moment will come at the end here. I want to get right into this. We got to talk about it. So let's get in here. Like, subscribe, comment. We're going to talk about this Relic Delta update. Alright, so let's get into the screen capture here. So, last night, Meat had posted a community check-in. The team is currently in deep development on our next major update. We wanted to give you a preview of what we're working on. As we get closer, we'll have more to share. We are thrilled to announce we'll be working with a select group of players in a closed playtest to get feedback on a major upcoming feature. I want you to be aware right now, this is coming, right? Like they're already, like the decision is made to put this into the game. While they won't be able to stream or record, many assets are still placeholders. So, hey, subject to change. They will be able to openly discuss what they're testing, share their thoughts with you, and talk about the feedback they're giving the team. The feature they'll be testing revolves around power differentials and relic amplifier levels. We are internally referring to this as Relic Delta, but this is a working title and will not be the name of the system upon release. They're already kind of selected the small group. If they need to open it up to more people, we will make sure those folks are aware of those opportunities. So basically, hey, if you're like me and didn't get the invite, don't be looking for one for a little bit. In short, it will be a non-linear way for relics to scale based on the matchup. How does a Relic 5 match up against a Relic 9 team? The team is aware this system can affect current playstyles, which is why it is important for us that it lands on the best spot possible. Current playstyles is another way to say, if you don't have all Relic 9 teams, this sucks for you. We don't have information to provide at this time as things will actively be adjusted from the feedback provided by those in this closed playtest. See you on the holo table. So, what you can take from this, before you even get into the thresholds that the creators and people in this test have shared, they're looking and saying, hey, we need to give a greater advantage to those players who are able to have Relic 9s, who are able to have Relic 8s. If you don't, hey, guess what? You're at a disadvantage. You're not going to be able to do as well. And I don't like this because it's already hard enough to kill some of those higher Relic teams, and this is making it even more challenging. This is a system that Marvel Strike Force has. Marvel Strike Force calls this overpower, and it basically killed the game. A lot of players quit over it because it just got to be ridiculous. This, in my opinion, Capital Games, if you can hear me, I hope you listen to this. I hope you hear what I'm trying to say. I want this game to continue for forever. My personal opinion, this system is removing skill from not just player versus player, but even the player versus environment. It's removing skill. You're not allowing room for players to show that they understand counters and kits and datacrons and omicrons. You're just saying, hey, you know what? If you don't have the same relics as them, it doesn't matter if you're smarter or if you have a better strategy, or hey, this is a team that counters that. You're not going to be able to deal as much damage. You're not going to be able, they're going to be dealing more damage to you. We'll get into those thresholds here in a second. But I really think this is a further removal of skill from this game and in being replaced with how large is your roster. And I do not like that. Especially as someone who prides themselves in being able to punch up, I don't like this whatsoever. Now, let's talk about these thresholds. And I have a screenshot from Agnard's here. Let me pull this up because I do think there's a... Where's it at here? Let me see if I can figure it out. Of course, I can't get it to pull up. Come on, thing. Can you show me this? If not, we'll just move on with life. Yeah, I can't pull it up. All right. So anyway, the thresholds here are 20% damage increase for one relic level. So if you are a Relic 8 Ahsoka going up against a Relic 9 Jedi Master Luke is going to be dealing 20% more damage, while Ahsoka is dealing 20% less to Jedi Master Luke. At a difference of 2 relic levels, so Jedi Master Kenobi to Jedi Master Luke, Jedi Master Kenobi is going to be dealing 45% less damage, and taking 45% more damage from Jedi Master Luke. At a 3 relic difference, so a Relic 6 to a Relic 9 character, at a 3 relic differential, you are looking at a 75% increase to the damage you are receiving, and a 75% decrease to the damage you are dealing. And then finally, at the highest level, a Relic 5 character against a Relic 9, a 5 relic difference, you are looking at a 95% damage reduction. So you think my Omega Fugitive going up against Coruscant Underworld Police, Cup is going to have a 95% damage increase and a 95% damage reduction. Now, while that sounds equivalent, it's not at all equivalent whatsoever. A 95% increase to Omega, and I'm going to show you this on the calculator here, because I think the calculator is going to be kind of important to show this on. Right, so if I pull up the calculator. Alright, so here's the calculator, handy dandy calculator. And let's get rid of all that garbage. So, if you start at 100 damage and you multiply that by 95%, you're at 195 damage. Now, if you divide that by the original 100, you're at an increase of, 1.95. All right, makes sense, right? And for me to go from, just for logic's sake, to go from 100, right, if you multiply that by 2, it's a doubling, right? Okay, my damage is, basically doubled. If I take that same 100 damage and I say, hey, you know what? We need to, reduce this by 95% to, or another way to say that is, multiply by 5%, right? Now, I'm dealing 5 damage. To get back up to the original 100, I need to multiply by 20. The damage reduction here is so much worse. You are getting a far greater reduction on the damage. Even though it's a 95% each way, the decrease is far more impactful than the increase. We see this all the time with boosts to offense comparative to boosts of defense. It is ridiculous. I do not like that whatsoever. I do not think these thresholds are going to stick. But even so, I think the way these thresholds need to work is they need to be separated between the offensive output and defensive, input, right? Because I think otherwise it's going to be so hard to punch up. So I can't say I like that at all. I think this is really, really bad for the game. Now, those thresholds I do not think are going to stick. Let's be very clear. But this is part of my problem with Capital Games. Why would you even set it up to be that ridiculous? There's no way somebody thought those were adequate levels to put them at. And you started in the extreme and then you let the creators release it to the community. So the whole community is already against this change and we're against it even though we know it's going to change. The problem is you've set it up that we cut everything in half. That's still ridiculous, right? That still would be an obscene change. My personal suggestion for the way I would kind of work through this is, number one, you got to separate the offensive, the increased damage and the decreased damage. And I would go at about a 5% increase of offense and then 2.5% decrease in the damage for one relic level. And then each time I would just double it. So at a 2 relic difference, you're getting 10% more damage. You're getting a 10% offense boost and a 5% damage reduction. And then at the next level, at a 3 relic difference, 20% more damage being dealt and 10% damage reduction, all the way up to, whether you want to go to 4 or, however many relic levels, but it does have to cap at some point. And that cap needs to be at around I would argue 40%, you don't want to go too far with that because then there's no incentive to even try anymore. It just won't matter. So I think that like you've got to be able to separate the offensive and defensive, and those thresholds need to be significantly lower. You need to incentivize people to want those higher relics, but you can't turn this game into, if you don't have relic 9s, you don't win. That is ridiculous then, right? Because that's not, forget fair, it would be unplayable. And that's not good, right? I do want to say one positive thing from this. If there's one positive you can take away, they've reached out and put a play test. They've put a beta test back in, which is huge. This is something that they had, and back in the day, people kind of spilt the beans on Datacrons, on some capital ships and things, and what ended up happening was they took away all the beta testing and they stopped doing it. They've invited creators. They want to hear the feedback. That is a really, really big step for this community. And a big person I want to give a shout out to here is Arnold. Arnold got an invite. There's a very checkered past between CG and Arnold. There's a lot of things that have, gone on between both sides that I would say both sides are at fault in a lot of cases. Inviting him was really big. I do want to give Capital Games a lot of credit for that. And I hope Arnold is also appreciative that that bridge is trying to be mended. I gotta say, I really appreciate that. I really like it. With that said, I hope they really do listen to the community. And listen to the extent that this change is something that doesn't just kill the game. Because it's killed Marvel Strike Force. And Loader Homie, if you played Loader Homie, was based a lot around Marvel Strike Force. And guess what no longer is active? Loader Homie. There's a lot of reasons this is happening. This is, it's a business decision. But I also think that this is a response to them struggling to figure out how to make Relic 10 happen. Maybe we do get Relic 10 still. And maybe this is kind of saying, all right, well, we need to make sure that, Relic 10 is good. And, I understand what they're trying to do. I just think it's pretty drastic. And the players I feel the worst for are those free-to-play. Those players who have those smaller accounts that have been punching up, whether through the use of Datacrons or just smarter gameplay. You're already at a disadvantage if you have a smaller account than your opponent. And this is just going to exacerbate that. I think this could really, really devastate that community. And it's going to widen the gap. And there will be players who quit over this if those thresholds. I think there'll be players who quit regardless. But I think that number is going to be highly dependent on just how drastic this change is. This also changes how you're going to relic teams. My mantra for years has been, don't invest high relic levels. You don't need the high relic levels. Now, you're going to have to. Think about like your Supreme Leader Kylo Ren team, your, Jedi Master Kenobi team. These teams, you're going to want these high relics on the entire team. You're not going to want a Relic 7 Kenobi with Relic 5 characters because you take a Relic 7 team like Inquisitors up against that, and now those Inquisitors are juiced to the gills comparative to that Galactic Legend team. So I'm kind of really, really, like, you're going to have to change the way that you invest your relics now. In a way, it will almost slow down your journey guide progress because you'll be wanting to spend your relics on these teams where you can get them instead of go to the journey guide and then eventually go back and equip more relics. So I'm very nervous for this change, and I'm really dreading the impact it's going to have, not just on my account, but to the players even below me. Right? I'm really worried for those players who are in that mid-game level, who've been punching up, starting to climb up. Those are the ones that I'm really, really nervous for and really scared for. But they also said this isn't just impacting player versus player, it's impacting player versus environment. And the wording I heard from Arnold and Agnards was they were like, this will not impact players in 90% of PvE content, which I'm going to call BS on. I shouldn't say it's BS, but they're twisting the words a bit. Now, Territory Battles isn't active, but think about Territory Battles. You can't bring a Relic 6 character on a Relic 7 planet. So I will, Territory Battles, this is only going to benefit players in Territory Battles because you won't let it negatively impact us. You won't let me try to go to a Relic 7 planet and use Relic 5 characters. You won't let me try to utilize skill in TB. You want me to have the roster to do it. So Territory Battles, it's only going to help you, but it's not an accurate statement because they're not even going to let it hurt you, right? But Conquest is one where I think this is going to be really dangerous, because those later sections in Conquest are Relic 9, and those early sections in Conquest are Relic 5. And think about some of these feats about certain characters getting kills, you getting certain buffs. That might not happen anymore if your team is a Relic 9 going up against Relic 5s and you're dealing ridiculous amounts of damage. Can't get any buffs because you kill them too quickly. Or on the flip side, you need your pirates to survive in Sector 5. Yep, well, I'm in a Relic 9 zone. Oh, my pirates can only be Relic 3, so they're all just going to get decimated. So I 1000% think from a Conquest perspective, this is probably the worst part of it. Feats are going to have to change. It's going to have to get reworked because it's going to be so challenging to get that stuff done. Yeah, it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. And I don't have all the answers. I'm going to keep you as updated as I can on this. I personally think that these thresholds need to be reduced significantly. Significantly. And a lot of that also comes down to how they impact between datacrons and the omicrons and the stats on a character. Because let's say you're getting that, just 10%, 20% damage increase and reduction for a singular relic level, right? Well, where is that 20% happening? Is it happening on, before we add in mods? Is it happening after we add in mods? Is it happening before we add in datacrons, right? When you go into a battle and you're like, hey, my Leia against this Kenobi is going to be dealing 20% more damage and 20% less. Well, is that happening before my, datacron, if I have a datacron, right? Is it happening before my datacron makes a difference? Or is it happening after the datacron? All of those things are going to play a factor here, and all of those things are going to be problematic for the game, and we're going to have to figure them out. I'm very grateful to the playtest players. I'm very grateful that CG reached out that way, but I cannot say that I think this is a good change and a good direction for the game to head in from a player perspective. Those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think down below. As I said, I got to give my shout to my channel members right now for their continued support. If you guys are ever interested, link below, along with a link to Discord. Go check it out. Also linked below is a survey, is a link to a petition. If you want to go sign that petition to at least voice your opinion to Capital Games that you don't want this change to happen, you can make that happen. Love you guys. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.